we both do. So, hello, Facebook. I am proud to really just do this live today with Jacqueline. She's our water warrior, part of Zencation Retreats. And we're doing this from Facebook, and we are about to log into Instagram right now so then we can get this topic going, because I'm excited about this. Magic words. I know a lot of people will be intrigued by this. So I'm going to get on here now, Jacqueline, if you want to meet me on the live.
I'm getting ready.
On Instagram. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for who's tuning in and who's going to watch this later. I'm going to say hello to Instagram, and then we're going to get started with this. It's checking my connection. So let me make sure I'm on the Wi-Fi. Literally, it's been interference with my Wi-Fi, no joke. It just turns on and off whenever it wants. It just does its own thing.
Selenites. I got some rose quartz. I got my shungite, my EMF protector. Here we go. I see you.
Perfect. Okay. Hi, Instagram. We are on Facebook and Instagram right now. We are going to go live with Jacqueline Nicole about magic words. Here she is doing this with me. I am excited about this. Hi, Dana. Hi.
All right.
I can see you. That's just the vibe that you need to have. So one, I'm going to ask everyone to keep an open mind here. And to legitimately just take what resonates with you and discard the rest. That's something that Jacqueline has said in all of our retreats, and it's so true. So yeah, thank you, Jacqueline. Let's get this started. So
I'm so excited. This is gonna be so fun.
Okay, so we're talking about magic words, and I wanted to start. I'm gonna do more of a question answer with you.
Okay.
So my first question is, if I told you that your true power is in spiritual welfare, is not physical, it's through the portal of your heart, how would you explain that, explaining that to people of how they can tap in through their heart and different things like that?
That's a great question. Thank you. So what I mean by like spiritual warfare and being really tuned in and tapped into the portal of our heart, that is what I mean by that is that the portal of our heart is where we feel, is where we see, is where we hold love. And love is the highest frequency that is known, just as in Wonder Woman says, like love conquers all, right? So when we're able to tune in and love ourselves, first and foremost, which is through the portal of our heart. And that means that it doesn't happen overnight. It's something that we have to dig deep within ourselves and heal any traumas that have to do with love. And that's outside of us and within us, but it starts from within. So once we're able to tune in and be transparent and be super vulnerable and just admit to the things that we didn't know, or we knew and we needed to like come out of our ego and forgive. And so once we're able to be at peace here in that unconditional love of ourselves with forgiveness and everything, then we're able to give it back, right? So when I put it in terms with spiritual warfare, right now what's going on in the world is that people are being triggered because they have a lot more emotional healing to do. And so when we're not in a good heart space, we're not at peace, therefore we're going to project, or we're going to be triggered and not realize that we're projecting, and that's a part of the awakening. So when it comes to magic words, which we're going to dive deep, I don't want to give all the gems away right away. That's going to be a part of like where if we love ourselves, then we fight with love. We don't fight with a reaction. We don't fight with triggers. We don't fight with projection. We're not here to harm, hurt, or injure anyone. We are here to be love and hold that sacred space for people as they are evolving by leading by example. So that's what I mean by really coming in and fighting the spiritual warfare that is not a physical fight, even though it seems like it in the 3D world, but it's really a spiritual warfare of ourselves versus other forces that may be out there, but we got to be good here in order to win it out there, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. So you just kind of brought up vaguely of other forces. Okay. So if we're going to dive in, we might as well just dive all the way in. So what if I told you that I know that there's other extremities that we don't speak of? Okay, so let's talk about reptilians. Let's dive into dark forces that you know do exist, because I know they do, obviously. And one, the reptilian is extremely real for me. that I've seen. And how would you tell everyone to, what's your opinion on that?
So another great question. So in the most like simplistic way that I can explain this is that people have to really have an open mind. So anyone who's listening, just FYI right now, this may trigger you. You may think that we're insane or crazy, whatever your terminology is, based on the way you have been raised, based on the way you have been programmed by whether it's religion, spirituality, family, partners, society, I mean, whatever it is. So just know that right now, and I send you guys so much love, and I see you, I hear you, and I understand, but just have an open mind and take what resonates and let the rest go. If it doesn't resonate with you, that's okay. But somewhere along the line, it may come into fruition. So to make more sense. So with reptilians, in my belief system, in my experiences, in my research, in my channeled messages and so forth on my journey this far as a healer and as a woman, I have had experiences with energies that look human, okay, in the physical, but there was always something different about it. So when it comes to what a reptilian is, in my experience and my understanding before I got deep into researching it, is it's just this feeling like when you meet someone and there's something's just off, right? And in my experience, I'm not saying everyone, so please, hold what I say, but a lot of times it's people with colored eyes and that have this reptilian energy where it looks different. It looks like if you were to see a snake or a lizard or any of those kind of things in that essence of a physical appearance in the eyeballs, right? So you can sit there and like kind of look, and I can see people's eyes shift. Now, scientifically speaking, when we're in certain lighting, our pupils will shift. That's a normal thing. So it's like either they shrink with light, or I don't know why I'm having a brain fart, but like, when you're in certain lighting, they shift, they open and then they close. But when it comes to experiencing a certain energy, an entity that is in a human body, that like my accountability partner likes to say, he calls it a skin suit. And I just love that word because we are in skin suits. Okay. All of us are not technically human in a sense of we're all souls, like Dr. Wayne Dyer says, having a human experience. So some of us are brought in here to be the light bearers, the spiritual warriors, to really bring in and anchor in that love and light. But we had to go through hell first, be disempowered to understand this. So I'm trying to find the most simplistic way to explain it, but like with a reptilian, it's an energy. It's not a human energy. It is a dark. I'm not saying that it's all dark. There's dark and light of everything. But it is an energy of a reptilian, like a lizard. It's something that stems back from like ancient times, okay, that was, has been prophesized in religion and in spirituality, but has been shunned on and covered up so that people are not aware of how they are being disempowered for themselves. It literally is an energy. Right. And so it's just something you feel. So if you just like feel like that doesn't seem right and you pay attention, you're an observer, not an observer. You start to watch how this person or other people, because it's an energy that comes in and it feeds off your vulnerabilities. So like I said in the beginning, if you're not in a good space, you are the number one catalyst for it. You are and it sounds crazy when I say this, but you are the food for them, because they feed off of scarcity and fear, because these people, unfortunately, and this is another maybe aha moment, don't have emotions. They don't have a heart, so they don't understand how to love. Now, the human experience, we're here to feel emotions and to love, right? And those that have a pure soul are here to bring that love out onto the planet. Now, I'm not here to judge and say they can or can't, but in my research, they lack thereof when it comes to love. So they can mimic things. They're really highly intelligent. I will give them that, okay? They're an intelligent species. Okay, and this stems even from the gray aliens. And I mean, there's other things out there than what we think there is because our logical 3D mind wants to just be like, no, there's only this, and that. That's all in sci-fi, that's in movies. Movies have truth. There's truth in fairy tales with Disney. There's truth in Wonder Woman. There's truth in all these scary movies that if you look at it, when you feed fear to the bad guy, right, the murderer, whoever, you're feeding them. But when you stand up, even though you still can get intimidated, because in my experience, I'm like, oh shit, but you stand strong and you're like, no. And then you come into this like warrior spirit because you know that love conquers all. In that moment that you're here to stand up to it. And they could be the scariest thing. They could be threatening your family, but that's how they feed. So if your intention behind your strength is fear, they're going to win. So really standing strong in yourself. So you'll feel it. It's a feeling. So as we become more in tune with these energies within us and purge them out and really have a clean vessel, that's why I personally went sober. I don't smoke cannabis and stuff. I'm not saying that it's bad, but I do it for ritual purposes. But as we intoxify ourselves with things that are medicinal, but have been abused and have been compromised with, they no longer become medicinal. They become another tool to keep you in a lower frequency. And then when you're injured and you're like, oh, I'm smoking weed, cannabis because it's going to help with my anxiety. Okay, well, let's dig deeper. Instead of escaping it, let's go back in and what's causing that. Yeah, let's see what's causing. That's your heart chakra. What traumas and what triggers do you have going on in your heart? Do you love yourself? Because if you have to always escape from something, and I've been guilty of it, I was so guilty of it, right? Mm-hmm. And then when I started to have these aha moments and was shaking awake, which I know I can dive really deep into this, it's just something that you start to just come into awareness of. It's just having awareness. It's not to scare anyone. This is something I want to really, really embed into everybody. It is not something to fear. They want you to fear. It's about being aware. Just like we see dogs and animals, like we see all these other things out there. Yeah, we're aware of how they are, but we're not here to fear them. Animals are amazing, but to be aware, like to know boundaries and to know when to go. And if an animal's acting a little indifferent, you may not want to go up and try to pet the tiger if you know the tiger is going to go freaking attack you. Yeah, everything is energy. So if you look at these entities as just another species of the kingdom, the queendom, the world, then you don't have, we can coexist in a perfect world, right? We can sit there. I can say, okay, Jill, say you're a reptilian. Okay, hey, I'm cool because I know people that hold those frequencies, and I'm cool with them. But because I see them and I'm aware of them, I don't allow them to, control me. But there have been times where I was like, oh, I'm gonna stay away from that person because X, Y, Z. But then I'm disempowering myself because I'm trying to put this mask on and be like, no, it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. And then, oh, it kind of does. Oh, and then I get scared and they feel that, and then they disempower me because they take my energy, my life force energy. And this goes with romantic partners, friends, soul fam that I thought was soul fam, and it was more like karmic soul fam. I mean, just so much. So I don't want to get too deep on that one topic, but I mean, does that make sense though so far?
100%. One of the things when I was learning about the reptilian mindset is that the girl that I was learning it from, you actually sent us the video. You sent it to Nicole, and the way that she described it is like they latch onto you. So like if you're in a mindset of like fear or different things, then it's like your ego based. Your ego is at an all-time high with these types of things. So while we're talking about that, I want to dive into different things today. So basically everything that we have going on with the truth and divinity. How do you feel for the agenda today? Because there's an agenda with everything going on right now in this world. And I want to make it very clear of the truth, how to find it. Because right now I'm doing my own research on different topics. I dove into a rabbit hole so deep last night. I was there for like 3.5 hours of just researching biblical, Israelites, going back dates, because realistically, they've always tried to erase our history. So
rewrite it.
Divinity, how are we adding those together, and the agenda today? Like, how do you see that going?
Okay, that's a good question. So for let's see, how I feel is, as we dig deeper into ourselves, going back to the portal of the heart, it's all with self-love. It's really tapping in, and like that whole thing, like that comes from like the Buddhist philosophy and all spiritual philosophies in general, is that everything is within us. The universe, God presence, everything is within us, and then we're connected to a higher source. That is my belief system. And how we've been programmed to, believe is that I was raised Catholic and in a religious standpoint, right? And it was to believe that, we had to obey our priests. We had to obey and we had to like go to someone in there and confess our sins. We had to be baptized. We had to XYZ on their terms. And anything that wasn't in this box, okay, was labeled as not okay. Right. So if I did something out, like I got tattooed. I was like one of the first ones in my family as a woman and stuff to get tattoos. And I was 8 months pregnant at my great grandma's funeral, and one of my cousin's daughters had ran up to me and said, "Oh my gosh, you're gonna go to hell because you marked yourself." And I was like, "What?" And I was just like, "You're," and I remember being so triggered. I'm like, "This is why I don't like religion." Like, I was so anti it because didn't believe it, right? So something just never resonated. So when we look at and we start to question these people in leadership, okay, and I'm not saying everybody in religion is bad. I'm not saying that at all. I know some actual really genuine people that just, practice that and that's their thing, but they are awesome people. And then there's some where you just kind of look at them and like, I don't know, right? And so what the thing is what's really fascinating is I've learned that there's a lot of light workers, light bearers, should I say, like you and I, that are in the dark. Okay, like that will dive deep into the dark. Like I grew up in the rock and roll, and I was very what they would call gothic-y, and just really like had this punk rock thing, and I was really melodic. But I love wearing black, and everyone thought that I was like evil, but I was never evil. I was always a down to earth person. My personality was always like bubbly and stuff, but I was in like hell on earth, right? So, but I was in the rabbit hole. I was digging with my own traumas, and then I was becoming friends with those that were be considered enemies or the opposite and the polarity, right, of dark and light. I learned how to study them. I learned to see what ticked. I learned to really just dive deep. And I realized that there was a lot of truth and a lot of divinity of actual pure souls. Even I mean, I'm not perfect, so please don't take it that way, but I like to think that I'm a pure soul. And I was in those things, but I was pulling them out, but it just wasn't the scene I needed to be in. But I needed to go there to realize that there's just a lot of wounds in that area, right? Then the reason why I wasn't resonating with like the religious people and certain people in spirituality, even in the things I practice, there's some that are not so divine, right? And a lot of false like leaders, a lot of false light, is what I like to call it, and what we think is the light right now. So when I got out and I started going through my spiritual awakening, I started being a part of like these sisterhoods, right? Oh, let's have a sister circle, a goddess circle. Let's do this. Oh, hey, we're going to go have, this like sound bath healing, all the things that I actually enjoy. Yeah. But it was with people that I was like, oh, okay, well, they wear black. They're into alternative stuff. It's fine. Like I'm into that and I'm in good. But then I realized that there was like even people that I thought were like these goddessy people or godly people that were actually false light. What they were doing is they were tricksters. They were coming in and playing and saying the right words and having crystals and having all this stuff. But yet their energy spoke different volumes. They were still getting fucked up, excuse my language. They were still partying. They were abusing all the plant medicine. They're abusing all the spiritual tools. They were actually doing like love spells and stuff to like go against people's free will and doing what is considered black magic. And I'm not saying that I didn't participate in certain things, but I was like kind of standing back and I was very skeptical and I was like, what is going on here? So like we would do a spell and then people like, we do like ceremonies and I do it with like intentions, but then some of these people were like, I want this person to, to see me and to love me and stuff. And I would be like, what the hell? Like, this is weird, but they were playing it off like they were being divine. So I feel that where the difference is, okay, and I gave you those two scenarios because the difference is abuse of power. So we are all capable of being fucking powerful, divine, infinite beings of love and light, right? But there's also the polarity. There are dark forces that come in here and they will give you more material gain. So a lot, and I'm not saying people who have money are bad because I'm coming into my financial abundance, but I had to tap into it to really understand it, to know that I had to create it for myself and not have it from someone else. So a lot of these people, whether it was in the spiritual community, whether it was in the corporation of, America, corporate America, so to speak, that people were being led and fed off of money. Like, oh, for this amount of money, you can be here and have the white picket fence, the house, the husband, the wife, the kids, blah, 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 and you'll be set and you'll retire, you're good. That's what we've been promised, right? But you have to go and spend all this money in loans for school. You have to do all this. And there's certain things you have to go to school for, like to be a doctor and stuff. You need to learn the body. But other things, you don't really need that. It's just life experience, right? So in my experience in general, I started to see all these cracks, all right? And I started to study it. I mean, look at this, girl. Recently just got this book, Word Magic. Yeah. This was my Bible, so to speak, the Practical Psychic Self-Defense Handbook. I got this 4 years ago because I was like, there's something going on, right? This one, the Love Bite. alien interference in human love relationships. Okay, this talks about how entities take over and they come through. It's a succubus energy, you can call it too. I mean, there's so many different names. It's just a force that feeds off our life force energy through sex, through drugs, through alcohol, through the portal of our heart, if it is not pure and centered. I mean, and then as I started to evolve on my journey, I started to bring in more elements that were, related to nature, the herbs, healing with water. I mean, look at this, like even the healing powers of water. Japan, the Japanese culture, Chinese culture, they've been ahead of the game, and people want to shine on them and everything that's going. Oh, it's China's fault. Let's be real. Actually, I mean, there's just a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of conspiracy, right? But people don't want to dive in. Yeah. And so to really, like, I know I go on a tangent, but the thing is like, to know the difference from truth and divinity, it's a feeling. Look at people's eyeballs. Does it feel pure? Does it look pure? Does it feel good and just flow? Or do you kind of get like resistant? But you have to question yourself though, because sometimes it could be an insecurity. Sometimes it can be just you being like not confident and being envious because you're still in this egoic mind of competition, or no, I need to know that. You know how I know this? Because I've been there. I was like, oh, and then I would find myself being resistant, but then I had to sit with myself. Why am I resistant to this person? They're showing me love. They're actually playing it out. But I would start to study people and be like, okay, I need to see how people's lifestyles are. And the thing I find that is really fascinating is that people don't question anything. They immediately see it from the news. They hear about it and they just believe it immediately. They don't question it. So everything that's been going on this whole planet with all the racial wars, everything, I knew. Did I have the facts to say it, verbally? I didn't yet. And I'm still learning, but I knew intuitively, I'm like, this is all set up. There's agenda at play, there's segregation, there's diversion, but because people don't want to see their own issues, they're projecting and reflecting it out into the world, and it became a racial war. It became about COVID. It became about stuff. All this stuff, I'm not here to say it is or isn't, but if you really tune in, you're going to know the answers.
Well, this is the crazy part. Okay, so I'm going to jump in with my conspiracy theory.
Yeah, tell me.
Is where in the Bible, there are things that it says that these things are going to happen. These are plagues. These are, there's a certain word that I always, pandemic, it's in the Bible. There's steps. This is a step. Okay. One, we had Kobe and Nipsey Hussle die. And I don't know if you know who they were. Okay. But when they died, it was like, I felt like that was family, like that energy. It was like intense. It was so intense. Okay. And then you have COVID started. And then you have the Black Lives Matter. Now, I'm not going to go in too deep to this because I still need to do my own research. Mm-hmm. But I do have 2 mixed kids. I do have, a lot of things going on, and I support the actual intentions behind the real Black Lives Matter movement. Okay. But what happened is the BLM, it actually got overtaken by different powers that are now using that to cause that actual separation. And if you do your research in that, you may think I'm just talking crazy right now, but this is facts. This is factual information. This is stuff that I was like, wow, I'm out here supporting this Black Lives movement, Black Lives Matter. And they do, okay, but then I did my research into the actual organization, and it was something completely different than what the intention of the world and what the media is putting out to everyone to believe that. So it's like, guys, the only thing that I can say is education is power, but not just educating on COVID, because COVID is shit. It's a lie. This is all a fucking front. This is the media doing its best job. This is the best marketing I've seen done in years. They've been able to make you feel like you need to wear a mask, and it's something you don't even need to wear. Like, I get it. People are now like, masks are mandatory. This is it. This is that. Okay, well, you know what? For people that know me, I've been traveling everywhere. I was in New York when COVID first happened for my birthday, March 16th. They actually shut down to where me and my partner went to go get food, and they wouldn't even let us sit. Okay. Then I went to Philly. Then I came back to Florida. I would be the perfect person to get COVID, okay? Because and then I just got back from Puerto Rico. Let me tell you that like it is a fear mindset. It's the reptilian mindset of letting them take over, like, oh my God, where's my mask? I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do that. And these are all conspiracies that now in my reality I'm paying more attention to. I don't know if people know who this gentleman is. His name is Minister I think it's oh my gosh, Farragon. Okay, and he is Islamic, and he speaks a lot about different topics. And let me mind you, I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness, so it's not like I have a particular religion here. Like, let's be real clear.
Open.
I'm so open, okay? But the things that he was saying, and the pestilence, that's the word that I was looking for. In the Bible, it says that there's pestilence that happen, and there's steps to the pestilence of these actions and things happening, and they try and cause a divide between religion and actual like religion and races and people. They try to segregate that. So I just went off on my own tangent because of everything going on, but I felt like that was the rabbit hole that I really dove into yesterday. And I was kind of upset because I really wanted it to be that the BLM movement was a positive upbuilding, like they're doing the right thing with that. And if you're not awake and you don't do your research, then you're actually funding some real harsh shit. So I'm going to go back into now, okay, what if, okay, these are all preconditions, okay? These are preconditioned from our youth years, from past generations, and they continue to play in our adulthood, okay? So with that being said, this is a way of evolving. So when I'm saying that, Jacqueline, I guess stemming from these past generations and they continue to play out into the adulthood and the way of evolving, how would you suggest people to be more conscious in the way of that evolution?
That's a good question. So a lot of this is going to stem back to our ancestors, and this is what we call ancestral healing, which is something that I've learned to master, and I'm still learning how to do more as I evolve. I'm learning new tools and remedies and so forth. And how I would recommend everyone to start with is, besides the fact everything starts with us, okay? So in general, start to kind of like dig deep and look at the patterns in your guys' family dynamics. Like start with your immediate family, start with mom and dad, okay? What are the conditions of your mom and dad's emotional state, mental state, physical state, and what is their spiritual belief system, okay? Now just look at these four main things, because health and wealth, it does go hand in hand, right? But and before we can get to financial abundance of longevity and having that prosperous life of bliss and true happiness, we have to have it here. If not, it's just something we're trying to make tangible without us. So we're hustling, we're doing the 9 to 5, we're working so hard, we're working hard, playing hard. So we're working 9 to 5 Monday to Friday, and then the weekend comes, we're like fucking free spirits, and we blow our whole paycheck because we just want to be free. And then Monday we're fucking hating on because now we're hungover, now we're depleted, now we have to make up for this whole 48 hours that we just blew everything up, right? So we're programmed to think that that's normal. So what happens is when we start to look at these habits, okay, I like to call them bad habits, and start to see the traits of our family. So like, for example, my family's line, the men worked really, really hard. The women were more home and more, what's the word I'm looking for?
Homely?
No, when you oh my gosh, there's a word, not, it's the S, when you give to the man,
submissive.
Oh my goodness. Submissive, thank you. What the women were more submissive. They stayed home, they took care of the family. The husbands go out, they work hard, and they would drink with their buddies. They had be in brotherhoods and like these little like men group things, and then the women were always home and had to do everything. And then if as a woman would go outside of that comfort zone, it would be like you're sinning, you're not obeying your marriage, you're doing XYZ, right? I mean, all these things that's the woman in general, and that's not just the woman. I'm just saying in experience. So in my journey, I realized where the women were very disempowered, right? So when I was born, I was born with a warrior spirit. Like I came in and I was such a lover, but once I tapped in, I think I was like 9 years old and started to be more of a tomboy because my dad raised me and my mom wasn't in the picture. I started to be more masculine in my ways. I started to speak up. I started to like, not really allow people to bully me. So I would bully the bullies, right? But then I started to like look back in the past few years and reflect on like, why was I being that way? Why was I doing that? And then from that moment of becoming in this distorted masculine of like thinking I was doing a great thing, it turned into me partying, right? And I started to drink, and then I started to experiment, and then I started to do the same habits that my father was doing, and in his own way, but in my own way. And then I had to look back on the timeline and see that I was holding the masculine template within me at that time, and that it was just stemming so deeply and rooted. And this actually connected a dot yesterday on one of my calls with the Wake movement, that I was like, yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. So what I'm trying to get at is that like we have to really investigate our family's lineage. We need to go in, and what's happening is the reason why these things, in my personal opinion and my research, that are passed down for generation to generation to generation. I mean, it goes from 7 generations forward to 7 plus backwards, okay, before our time, before we even existed in the physical, right?
Right.
That nobody had the right tools to dig deep and the guidance. And at this time, like back in the dark ages, when the Federal Reserve was created and the dark forces that may be came to the planet and took over and abused their power and made man in charge and made man to create religion, man to suppress the woman, man, and I mean masculine energy, because there are women that hold this masculine energy just like I did. It became a distortive of power, money, greed, control. Okay. And then, I mean, I could get really deep on it. I know that's not what this topic is about, but just kind of throwing that gem out there, right? So when we start to see this and we see the trickle effect of people being suppressed, now we have these masks coming in. What are they doing?
They're suppressing you.
Okay. Now they're putting this fear in you. And like that guy, the video that you sent me on, he is a very knowledgeable man named Paul Moreland. I'm still doing research on who he is and what he does and stands for. You guys check out my story, check out Jill's story. It's in there if you guys want to see the live that he posted. But he talks about the beta test, the AI system, and how the military coding is coming in and teaching trying to see who's going to be obedient, so to speak. So when we have the 6 feet apart kind of stuff, it's like so that 5D, not fifth dimension, the 5D technology that they're instilling or have been instilling is to suppress us, to scan our body. And when people think they're getting the flu shot and all these vaccinations for fun, what's really happening is they're putting little microchips in you. Okay. And they're making you sick. And like I said, take what resonates. This is my belief system. I mean, it can get deep, right? So what they're doing is that they're putting all this fear in you. You're wearing a mask now. They're going to identify you by your eyes, you guys, by your eyes, because the eyes are the windows to the soul. Okay. All you need are eyes. And then your mouth. Okay. And then your scarcity, you have all this stuff and you're actually making yourself more sick. Okay. So I'm just going to let you guys see that video. But to finalize that question, because he gets really deep and he talks about some epic gems and golden nuggets about how, I'm going to say one thing he said, that last year in 2019, let's put, for example, 1.5 million people had tuberculosis.
I said the same example, Nicole.
Yeah, had 1.5 million. We didn't have a quarantine, and he was saying quarantine, he popped a couple other gems. Quarantine.
We didn't have a pandemic.
Yeah, we didn't have a pandemic. The quarantine is literally, let's get our facts straight, and I agree with him. Quarantine means house arrest, because if you're quarantined, you're infected. We're not infected. We're on house arrest. Social distancing is actually a forced isolation, and stay safe at home is actually, not everyone's home is safe. Not everyone has the tools and resources, right? So that goes back to ancestral healing. We are not taught. We are programmed. We are shown. We are told what to do. And so what happens? We want to escape our reality because we're not happy. So the people right now, I'm just letting you guys know, do the inner work to come to your happiness, because if you're hiding behind alcohol, partying, sex, all these things, you're just coding it, and you are the #1 target to be used as food for the dark forces to be. And that's not to scare you. just remember you hold the power. And when we remember that and we see how our family's lineage has been disempowered for generations since the dark forces came in like 200 years ago or something like that, it is now coming into where the light has completely won. However, I know when I say this, people are going to say, if the light's won, why are we going through this? Because we're going through the shift. This is a purge. And when I say purge, people are purging. The people that are sick, like Jill mentioned, pre-condition, or what do you call it? Their pre-medical condition, pre-compromised immune system, pre-traumas, whatever's going on. And that guy, Paul, he drops more gems on what is really happening. And I have friends in the medical industry that are like telling me, like, Jacqueline, you're never going to believe, like, half the people that are passing away in here are passing away from medical conditions that have nothing to do with, what'd you say?
Pre-existing.
The pre-existing, thank you. I couldn't think of the word. Pre-existing conditions, but they're saying that it's from COVID. They're putting that it's a hyped up thing. And it's like, my dad went into surgery last night or yesterday, and I posted a picture of him with his mask on because he just thought it was funny and he sent it to us. I can guarantee you, if someone got their hands on that video or that photo, they would say he had COVID or something. No, he went in for a fucking knee replacement to be a bionic man. He's getting like titanium, some knee in there, and he's completely fine. Yeah, he's in a little pain because he's healing, but he's fine. But I can only imagine who, what, where, when, why, how. And I told him, and I said prayers. I did some meditations for ancestral healing yesterday because I was like, I'm protecting my family's line to the best I can in my power, but he still has his own free will. But I told my dad, you better not take no vaccinations. You better be aware and conscientious of what's going on in there, just for your own mindfulness. And I think he's working, but at the same time, it's his own path, right? So I can't be forceful. But in all actuality, the basic steps, because I can go on a tangent too. Really dissect your family's habits, good and bad, and see where they are affecting you and where you're redoing it, and see where the planet's going through it. It's kind of a mirror. Now, you're going to be mad, you're going to be angry, you're going to be hurt. That's okay. Sit with those emotions and let them go and forgive them. Don't blame anyone. It's nobody's fault. It's technically the forces that may be that fed off of us. And it's actually, if we really look at it, it's not their fault either. We allowed it because we disempowered ourselves. Yeah, they came in and they blinded us, but guess what? You have every freaking power to be just as powerful, but in your divinity, and using that power with love versus abusing it and distorting things and bringing people down and hurting, harming, and injuring. We're here to raise that vibration, to empower, inspire, educate, and just to fucking be love.
Yeah.
Through divinity. So sorry.
That's it's great. Just everything that you're saying right now. And, I just want you guys to know that when you're doing this work, it is a whole trigger for everyone around you. I am the perfect example of it being triggers for people in my life, of like, when you stay in your power and in your peace and don't let people affect your emotions in that moment, it's a whole thing for them. They can't handle it. And this happened to me recently, and I'm not going to go too far into it, but it definitely is a whole thing where I was proud of myself. I was in a moment where I saw myself reacting years ago completely differently to how I was in that moment. In that particular moment, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not reacting. That other person was really reacting, but I wasn't. And it was me keeping my power, not letting that mindset change me. And when I watched the video that she's speaking of, which, you know what, I'm going to put it in the Zencation story so then you guys can see that as well. Because just because we've just been really talking about that today, it breaks it down in a way where you can really understand, and it makes you think like, oh, like maybe this is really something that I need to look into, or, it opens that. When I saw it and I saw tuberculosis had 1.5 million deaths, and where was the pandemic then? Where was the panic then? Where was this? That's because this is a bigger picture. One thing that I learned, and I put in my story, my personal story yesterday, was that when I was growing up, I was a Jehovah's Witness, and these are things we learned. These are like actual biblical prophecies that are to come out and to play. So, regardless of your truth, you cannot say that these Bible scriptures are lying. You know, people do use them for what they want to use them for, but it aligns with current events that are happening now. So when Jacqueline's talking and I'm talking, I know it's a lot to take in, because yesterday I was watching a live and my brain was just connecting all kinds of dots. When you're hearing this stuff, like, take it in, but realize that you still have to do the work. Me and Jacqueline cannot make you see these things that me and her see. We can give you the information and let you hear it and hope it resonates with you. But that's what we're here for. This is why we're doing this. So I'm going to ask you another question here. Let me pull it up because I wrote them all down. Okay, so another thing that I wanted to go into was, you know, we just talked about, you know, family, about generational things. So when you're talking about dysfunctional relationships, I know you went into sex and you went into drugs and alcohol and different things. Now where you are, how I had to keep my peace, what are ways that you're able to do that with your divinity, of being able to keep your peace and, you know, not let them disempower you through these certain things?
Those are really great. I actually have two things I wanted to actually read to you guys, if that's okay. And then it will help you to kind of understand what I'm going to say. So in my perspective, and actually really short and sweet, is being able to, what I've really worked with, and I have a mentor as well that he has been helping me. His name is Chris, and he's been helping me to shed light even on the way that I use my words. Like, he's the one to introduce me to the Word Magic book, and he's like, you know, I was like, I know I really need to get this book because it's going to connect a lot of dots of things I already know inside, but I never knew how to articulate it. And I'm learning how to articulate everything that I've been seeing for many, many years, you know, but was always like, no, that's, you're just crazy, right? So in my experience with things this far is learning to really allow people to talk, right? Hold that space for them without wanting to be reactive, hear them and say, okay, instead of disempowering them, like giving their power back and just like, okay, I hear you. Now, are you open to hearing my perspective? And then, and hearing it. And now, and if there's resistance from either person, like, cause I mean, I'm not perfect. I still have moments where I'm like, just breathe. I always recommend breathing, conscious breaths. Like my dad goes, I'm always breathing. And I'm like, consciously breathing, meaning like breathe in and out. And if you think about it, when we're younger, you know, when you see people, like when you're talking to like, and you're like, oh, am I bothering you? And they're like, no. It's like, because they're consciously breathing to process the, and then I used to take it as like, gosh, I'm like, I must be really like too much for this person. And maybe sometimes I was, but at the same time, it's like, just breathing, and what it's doing, it's sending signals to your neurological, you know, brain stems and cells and everything in your mind. You know, I'm not a science on that. I'm still learning all this stuff on terms, but what it's going to do, it's going to help to create the balance and, you know, like your serotonin levels and all that stuff to keep your mind more peaceful and calm instead of being reactive and impulsive and projectile and wanting to feel like you have to prove a point. So when you go back to the portal of the heart and you're in a safe space and you're accepting yourself, and the number one thing that is the most challenge outside of, actually, should I say number two, the number one was learning to forgive. Okay. And number two was learning to accept judgment, learning to accept that I'm not everyone's cup of tea, that I'm not everyone's flavor, that I am not always going to be appreciated, respected, or heard the way that my intentions really are. That's the word. We are all uniquely designed for a reason, right? So when we start to realize that a lot of people, the reason why they feel like they have to prove themselves or whatever, when we react and we're not in a peaceful place, we're actually feeding, because there's a scarcity, there's a fear behind that still of not being seen or heard. So we want to try to change that person's mind. No, hear mine. Instead of having a normal communication like me and you, like holding space, letting you talk. Mm-hmm. And then, yeah, sometimes you might get a little excited, you know, in between, but for the most part, I'm holding that space for Jill while she talks. She's holding the space for me. And then we come back and we say, okay, how do you feel about this? And we ask questions. That's a healthy conversation. Yes. An unhealthy one would be like, no, Jill, it has to be this way. It has to be that way, blah, 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 or no. And then we'd be arguing. Mm-hmm. And what's happening in that moment is that we're feeding each other's fears, first of all, and then we're feeding whatever forces, entities, whatever is out there, okay, that is a real thing. And they're like, look, they're fighting. Yep. Look, they're disagreeing. They're instead of just agreeing to have different perspectives, instead of saying agree to disagree, and instead of just accepting and saying, oh, I respect your perspective and thank you for respecting mine, and this is why I feel this way, and oh, that's why I feel that way. That's how we empower each other, because we're seeing each other, we're hearing each other, but I'm not judging you.
Right.
And you're not judging me. But if you were judging me, that's just a reflection of you. That's a form of fear. That's a form of a programmed mindset to have it, whether it be your ethnicity, whether it be your belief system, whether it be whatever. But if we really get to the core of it, everything is just unconditional love, forgiveness, kindness, having, integrity of our soul, being loyal to ourselves. But if we can't be here, we definitely can't be it out there. And it doesn't matter what religion, what spiritual belief system, anything that is in divinity and the divine light, it's going to have that common core denominator. But we will all have different perspectives of how to get there or what it looks like. And then when it comes to the darkness, it's about how much money you got, what's your ego status, what's this, what's that, how many girls you got, how many guys you got, like how can we manipulate? And sexual energy is used to create, but then there's also that form that's abuse and becomes manipulation, seduction, in a way where I'm going to get that person to do what I want them to do, instead of being like, let's empower them with our sacral chakra energy, and let's exchange so we can be in this flow and create together, instead of being like, it's all about me, because it's not about me, it's not about you, it's about we. Once you take that whole, we know that whole saying, there's no I in team. That's a true statement. It's a we are a team, right? So going back to that, so this book, you guys, lots of gems, but here's my disclaimer on it. Once you read this book, it's going to change your perspective, and I'm learning more of deeper, but this will trigger you. You will not want to believe it. You're going to say that's bullshit. And remember, take what resonates. I don't take every single thing that someone says, but this is like, if I could write a book, it's pretty damn close to my mind. Okay, so he has a topic or a chapter in here, and I know I just did this on a live if you guys watched it, but who is the book by? It's Word Magic is the name of it, and it's called The Powers and Occult Definitions of Words, and it's by Pao, P-A-O, Chang, C-H-A-N-G. So if someone could type that in there, that would be really great. But Pao Chang, if you guys want to see it one more time, take a screenshot. Okay. So he has this topic that's called 20 Solutions to Free Mankind. Okay. This is how we take our power back. This is part of the ancient knowledge, secrets, golden gems out there. And there are many books. I mean, there's truth in everything, but everyone has a different perspective. Doesn't mean they're right or wrong. It's just their experience, their journey. Some people experience a lot of darkness. Some people don't. Some people have been wearing masks for so long that they think their life is perfect. And then they realize that's what they're coming. Oh my God, I've been living this life, this whole life, and people can't handle it. And those who are not strong enough to handle it, guess what? They're committing suicide. They're transitioning on, because those number 4 and number 6, I'm going to read to you. And they're just short little paragraphs. Okay. So number 4, avoid fighting the dark forces. Okay, really be open to what I'm saying before you judge it. It is not wise to fight the dark forces, because fighting them produces negative energy for them to feed on. In addition, fighting them generates the right kind of energy to power the artificial matrix. This is why they like to promote wars and conflicts between nations and ethnic groups. Okay, this is made before everything was going on. Even though it is not wise to fight the dark forces, be aware that you do have the rights to defend yourself. This is why I created my divinity product line, to clear, heal, and irradiate your soul, your energy. Anointing oils to protect yourself. I wear crystals. I mean, nature is medicine. Nature is healing. Nature is protective, okay? And an important information that you need to know about the dark forces is that they cannot be stopped using physical weapons. It's not physical, guys. It's energetic. It's spiritual. The dark forces are non-physical beings. Therefore, physical weapons are not very effective against them. So you can learn. I know how to shoot a gun. I know how to do bow and arrow. I know how to be a true physical warrior. But it's more about the spiritual warrior. I'm just letting you guys know, okay? And you can find that video on our Zencation thing. I know they're working on doing that segment I did on spiritual warrior. Are you one? And telling you how to tap in. And ancestral healing. Okay, instead of fighting them, use the power of knowledge. This is knowledge, guys. Reading. Learn to read or do an audiobook or both and take notes, okay? Words, thoughts, intentions, and God's law to discipline them. And one thing I really want to say, You know, it says on the dollar bill, "In God we trust." And in all government things, when you go to court, it's like, put your hand on the Bible. Do you believe in God, or whatever they tell you in the name of God? But what God are they worshiping? Because there's dark and there's light. Okay, so it's something to think about. All right. Where is that? In addition, reduce your support for the artificial matrix as much as possible. Just like how any corporation needs your support to stay in business, the artificial matrix also needs your support to function. So I don't wear the mask. If I have to, it's like, because I definitely, like, say I want to go get Yogurtland. That is like one of my things me and my daughter like to do. We haven't been doing it, but if I needed to, just because I want to have Yogurtland, I would do it for that moment, but it's not something I would participate in. I have Instacart for my grocery shopping.
Yeah.
I let other people have that. When enough of us remove our support, take back our energy pretty much, the artificial matrix will become weak and powerless. Right now, they're holding on to all the fear, right? You also need to support people who are creating systems that work in harmony with nature. That's what Zencation is. That's what our Wake Water movement is. That's what my Divinity product line is. That's what holistic healing is. Nature. That's why they don't want people going out in nature. But at the same time, on a divine aspect, it's resetting nature. So pros and cons. These systems are important. Magic in general. It's funny because I made this segment before I got this book, and it's really how we speak it into existence. Listen to how we empower or disempower ourselves. That's the key to really reclaiming it. Mm-hmm. Do not ignore the dark forces. You need to be aware of what the dark forces are doing. Okay, that's why I study them. So you can protect yourself from them by rebuting their false presumptions and saying no to the magic spells that they broadcast via television, which is tell you lies, and other media platforms. Ignoring the dark forces only makes it much easier for them to enslave mankind. How many of us have been told not to go into the darkness, not to read about satanic stuff? Like, I want to know why people do that. There's a lot of truth in the dark, because in the light, not saying everyone who's in the light, so really be open to that, okay? But there's a lot of false light workers that are telling you in religion, in spirituality, and in the government, everything, words that appease you, but keep you away from actually doing the research to really be wise, right? Right. One of the main reasons that the world is on the brinks of destruction, okay, this was made before, like I said, the pandemic, is because most people have ignored the dark forces. They close their eyes. No, I don't want to see that. No, I don't want to hear about, I don't want to hear it. I'm so over this. And it's like, yeah, okay, don't listen to the TV, but do your own research. And be mindful right now, you guys. If you guys haven't noticed on the internet is becoming kind of like the TV, like the television. They have changed research in Google. So when you go to Google something, everything now has to do with COVID, because they're showing you, oh, see, it's been here. Just like they're trying to rewrite history, they're trying to rewrite the sources in the internet. So go back to the old school way of getting your books out. That's why I love physical, tangible books, because this won't be changed unless someone, changes and makes another revised version. Whereas the internet, they can change the whole wording. You have no control. Okay. So then it says, remember, silence is a form of consent, and ignorance is not a good enough excuse, especially in the information age, the computer age. So what that means is that be observant. Do not absorb. Be an observer, not an absorber. Be mindful, do your research, right? But don't be ignorant in a sense of being naive and turning your face. Like, I see everything that's going on. But do I need to exploit it? We're having a conversation to have you do the research. I'm not telling you what to believe. I'm just giving you and Jill some things to like be mindful on and do your own research. If this is bullshit to you, then it's bullshit. I'm not here to tell you what's right or wrong. I'm just telling you based on experience. Same with Jill. But what I would highly recommend is just to start digging deep into yourself and into more knowledge that's already been written. This one, if you guys really want to talk about self-love, You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay was my first book 4 years ago, actually 5 years ago, that got me on the process. And this talks about illnesses and how we make ourselves sick. So for example, lower back, and that's also your sacral chakra and connected to your root chakra, right? It says, then they give you a new thought pattern. So affirmation, I trust the process of life. All I need is always taken care of. I am safe. Okay. Now the problem is defects. The probable cause is karmic. You selected to come that way. We choose our parents and our children, unfinished business. So a lot of the toxic relationships we have in our life are from past lives, probably the people that burned us at the stake, probably the people that prosecuted us, the people that just were against us. And now we have to face them and take our power back and forgive them. And love, I did that. I just came out of that cycle, you guys, just recently this year. Well, in 2019, and January was the last of it for 2020. I just recently fully dived deep into my divinity. And then new thought pattern. Every experience is perfect for our growth process. I am at peace with where I am. This book is gems. Everything is, it's there, but they're not going to tell you because everyone wants a quick fix. No one wants to do the work. You got to do the work. You got to question everything, question the source where it's coming from, and do the research on these people. If you really look at leaderships, do you really know about them? Celebrities, what is it like in their real everyday to day life? And what I'm learning as an individual, right, is to be more open and vulnerable, because the more secrets we keep, that's how we disempower ourselves. And that's how the forces win, because a secret, guess what? I don't have any more secrets. My secrets are out little by little. Now, let me change this a little bit for you. Let me rephrase this. That does not mean I'm going to exploit people and say, like me and Jill had an issue, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, Jill did this. Guess what? That's disempowering yourself again, and that's feeding the forces. You need to talk about experiences with love and gratitude. So, I had a friend, or I had a connection, I had a business partner, I had this, or whatever it may be, that we went through X, Y, Z, you know what? And I saw that person where they're at, I accepted it, but I moved forward with love and forgiveness. That's how we reclaim our power. That's how we become love conquers all. That's how we make the change and make peace on this planet. Not by being reactive, projecting, blaming, playing like the victim in general. You're making yourself disempowered and making yourself more sick.
Okay, so we only have 4 more minutes on Instagram, but I just wanted to jump back into something that resonated with me yesterday, and I didn't realize, and this kind of went back into what you were saying with celebrities. So I was like a Lady Gaga lover. Okay, I love her. I loved her music, and I don't know if anybody's familiar with American Horror Stories. Okay, well, she actually starred in American Horror Stories and was this being that would actually feed off of blood and would actually have little children around her that she would be feeding off of them all the time. And then they would have sex with people and drink their blood and kill them. And when you read about all of these things, I'm not going to say more than that, but that was like a whole light bulb that went off in my head, especially with everything going on and all of this stuff being exposed. You do have to do your own research, but it definitely made me realize about Lady Gaga, like, I love you, but wow, like you really do eat babies and like eat all this shit of like all kinds of stuff. So it's definitely a lot, and you have to take it in to your own. And if you think I'm crazy, that's okay. I'm not. I've done my research.
No, we're crazy. We're just not insane. We're
correct.
Crazy.
I don't repeat the crazy. I'm not in a pattern. I might be crazy all the time, but that's not it. So I know. Well, is there anything else that you want to go through? We have 2 more minutes. I'm going to just literally tell you, and then we are going to be on Facebook for a few more minutes after this, but Instagram cuts off on its own. So if there's any questions or anything, dive it in now, so then Jacqueline can answer it.
Yeah. And I wanted to tell you one thing about celebrities. So like I said, I take what resonates. I'm still going to kind of research it, but I've sensed it. But I was a big fan of Katy Perry. I loved her music. I still like some of her songs because they can resonate as in words. I just found out, and like I said, I've only been a couple of sources, but like her and a lot of the celebrities apparently are involved with cannibalism. And there's actually a live website that states it. Now, here's my viewpoint on that is like, what if too, like certain celebrities are targeted for certain things so that they look bad, but really that's really happening. It may not be them, just like how we've been ridiculed. Right. So it's not necessarily saying that it's her or not, but there are things going on in general with the population of society that when it comes to celebrities and it comes to the music industry and a lot of things like that we don't want to see, and a lot in religion and spirituality too. I mean, of all sorts. So just be mindful if something doesn't feel right. listen to that, and please reach out. And another really important thing is staying hydrated, literally with drinking living water, protecting yourself with crystals. I got my product line Divinity, and really taking in more plant-based foods and products, supplements, whatever it is really going to help raise your vibration, decalcify your pineal gland so you can see and hear. If you can, stay away from meat as much as you can until you are harvesting your own animals. In that sense, because everything's energy, it's pumped with hormones, it's pumped with fear of that soul. I mean, I can get really deep, but be more mindful of what you're eating, the intention behind it. Really take time to listen, smell, feel, and have an honor and gratitude every day with the food, the people you're in, the lessons, and don't fear the reaper. Literally, face it.
We have 30 seconds left. So on Instagram, we're going over to Facebook. Thank you, Instagram. Anybody that's following us, you're going to see this up for a little bit, but it's going to be in our IGTVs. I'm going to end the Instagram. If you guys want to end up on our Facebook, thank you for tuning in. We'll be back on Friday and Sunday for more lives, but I love you, Jacqueline. I'm going to end this now before it cancels us out. I'm going to go on to Facebook.
Yeah, I'll see you on Facebook. Bye, guys.
Okay, so we're still here. I just ended Instagram. We're still
right. Should I pull it up on Facebook too?
Let me see. I'm still learning Facebook, so I don't know how to see like if we have comments or like different things like that while we're on the live.
Let me see. Are you under the Zencation in there?
On the Zencation page.
Okay, hold on. Let me see.
And I'm definitely still learning how to do that part.
No, you're totally fine. Let's see. Join.
Oh, I see us. Okay. Oh, Cole was on there. Pestilence. He answered the question for us.
Thanks, Cole.
Well, those are just different things that I wanted to go over, and I really appreciate you being here and doing this and diving in. This is what people need to hear, and we can end it on this note too, of if they just really want to reconnect with you and dive in with all of us in these topics, this isn't going to end here. And these are things that people need to be up. I feel like on Friday, I don't have a live, and I want to do a live of conspiracies. Like I want to go through some of them and really knock them down and go through the truths of them. So maybe we can do that.
Yeah, I'm down. Just let me know. And it's like there's so much like I want to like express too. Is like I said, Jill and I don't have all the answers, and we both have completely different experiences with dark and with light. It's a polarity in life. Everything is based on intention, and there's a lot of people who feel like they were dark, but like with me, I was like, there was a point where I was like, am I dark? I look back at pictures and stuff, and I was like, no, I was really wounded, and you could see that in my eyes, but I was always like really a happy person. So at where I was, but I would suffer in silence. Like I didn't want people to see my wounds. I didn't want people to know that I was hurting, even if they saw it or not. And as you see, like I've been rocking my curls and no makeup. I just have mascara on, literally nothing on my face. And it was when I really came into my divinity and and really started working on myself and realized that I was trying to still fit in and trying to be something to be considered accepted in society. But once I reclaimed my power and really had those spiritual initiations with self and with, with my God source energy, whatever, through water, through nature, those are the healing elements. And when we go back to those ancient times, it talks about nature, just connecting, just going outside and having the sun on you and just really being open to feeling and seeing and sitting, even if it's just for 5 minutes, set your alarm clock on your phone for 5 minutes and just sit there with your eyes closed. Yeah. Like just do that. That will help and speak so much volumes for yourself. But people will think that we have to go like this and be in meditation. Just start simple. Start journaling your thoughts. I mean, really be mindful of your words. To really, end it on a note with the word magic is, be conscientious of what we're saying. For example, the one thing that's always like, we always say we're sorry. Okay. And I even caught myself in the live with IG. Don't say you're sorry. Sorry is for when like you really mean you're sorry. And it sounds really weird to say, but like if I cut someone off and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, what I mean? That's being sorry because you accidentally, like I moved into their space. But if I'm like saying something or overspoken, I'm like, instead of being like, oh, I'm sorry, Jill, just because that's disempowering yourself.
Right.
You say, oh, forgive me. Or like even forgive me can be kind
my bad.
My bad. Or excuse me.
Excuse me.
pardon me, stuff like that to kind of get you out of saying you're sorry, because sorry is disempowering yourself if you're not. We're not sorry to be who we are,
Right.
but this is the way we are. Or if you think about words when people are like, I'm dead, when they say that and you're like, I like looked at them like, stop saying that. You could say I'm done.
Yeah.
Or you're funny, but don't say that. Or when people say, oh, you're so stupid, and you're like,
What about I can't breathe?
oh,
That's a
there you go.
powerful one. I
Mhm.
wouldn't, I don't condone I can't breathe. Like I get it, but you can breathe. I
Yeah.
can breathe. Okay.
Mhm.
Saying I can't breathe is disempowering yourself. It's what you speak, your mind hears, and then it becomes a reality. You're manifesting it. So I can breathe. I'm going to want justice for the ones that cannot anymore, but I still can. So
Yes.
I love you. Thank
I
you
love
for
you.
this. And we will be back. And I hope all of you, if you have any questions, she's already tagged in it and we'll go through everything. And thank you.
Thank you. This was awesome. And like I said, this was just touching on the basis, and we have so much more. And so Friday, I'll see you.
Got it.